CLG support.
All right, thank you very much, Riv. Hello, I am here with Aframu. So, Bard coming out of the gates here. Tell me about sort of your plan coming in to face TSM. You knew you were going to be against them for a very long time, as you always kind of rematch the finals here. You have something special cooked up for them, or was it just like another game for you guys?
Versus TSM, obviously, it's going to be, hype, essentially. Yeah. But coming into this game, we definitely wanted to focus on building team synergy. This is our first LCS game for Stixay and Huhi. So, yeah, we just wanted to make sure that they were comfortable and that we could, still pull through.
So I have a question then, real quick, because is Stixay going to have to change his name to Trevor now that, Tarshan's already done it? Like, are you guys going to go first name basis real soon?
No, I think they're going to stick with their gamer tags, but I'll call him Trevor, so.
All right, you guys got to learn that one because I guess Stixay's here to stay, of course. Talk to me about how you've been sort of meshing with the new rookies. You talked about this game being about team synergy. What's it been like working with these new guys? You're now like basically the longest standing CLG member at this point.
Yeah, I am. Working with these guys has been a pleasure. He's definitely hilarious, sometimes. And Trevor definitely puts in the work. So they both put in the work, and they definitely, came through this game. Didn't really have, a lot of mistakes other than myself dying at some random points in the game. A little stale, but overall, we stuck through it.
I have another question for you about these players then, because I know when we talked Elimination way back when Cloud9 first qualified, he said that Sneaky was the best AD carry he'd ever played with. And he had played with like Wild Turtle, some very, very good players before. Tell me about how these guys stack up with mid laners and AD carries you played with before.
All right, Trevor definitely has the mechanics that I'm used to. And other than that, he just has to work on his in-game decision-making with map movements and stuff like that. So, but he's already pretty up to speed, I would say. From solo queue, he's definitely a monster. Huhi, he has all the macro side of it down. And other than that, he just has to work on communication. So sometimes we have a little lapse in our English with him. He'll understand. We had a few missed TPs that game, so it was okay. But other than that, we're doing very well with our two new members.
Yeah, you are standing alone in first place. Aframu, thank you very much for your time. Congratulations on so far crushing the NALCS. We're going to go and head over to our analyst desk. So, guys, take it away.
Thank you, Freak. We have our first victory in the 2016 season. Congratulations to CLG.
They picked it up.
Exactly, ended in first place. They start off in first place, but it was a fairly long game. I know that, Jat, in one of your most recent segments on PTL, we talked about how the games should be expected to be shortened, and yet that was longer than the average of last season.
Well, a long game being 44 minutes, I think it'll still push the average down. But I agree.
It's not an 80-minute game.
That was a very compelling, intense game because there was a lot of split push attempts, and TSM had a lot of tools to stop the split push. But ultimately, it was the coordination and teamwork of CLG that won out.
Yeah. I think above all, it's definitely the teamwork and coordination, because what ended up happening was they had to rely on these plays that happen every 5 minutes with TPs, and then you have to kind of stagger them, and then the push game is what ended up happening, and then Twisted Fate stalls that out, right? I actually like the TF pick into what CLG wanted to do.
And as we are in week one, day one of the split, I do want to get kind of that initial report card of the teams, right? We had an expectation of both of these teams coming in. You two illustrated that before the game, you expected CLG to have better synergy, having had much more time to practice with their roster. It was a roster that did exist in the previous season, just with Stixay and Huhi being subs, whereas TSM is going to be struggling with that communication, with adjusting to each other's playstyles. Now, having seen the game, what has been evidenced to you as either, affirming your expectations or contradicting?
Siren and I both predicted properly.
Also that. So Freak, we kicked him off the desk. He gets relegated to the side stage interviews when you guess wrong.
Yeah, the first 6 minutes of the game were incredibly clean, and I think were the biggest indicator of kind of the overall trends we expected to see. The lane swapping play from TSM at the very start of the game was extremely sloppy. We knew that they didn't want to solo lane Mundo against the Jax, but in doing so, their execution after guessing the initial lane swap wrong put them even farther behind, and it just led to CLG showing their teamwork as being clean.
Yeah, and you were talking about report cards. I definitely think that a lot of the expectation actually was reflected in the reality. A lot of what we thought was going to happen did end up happening with the sloppiness of TSM and needing more time to synergize. But also, something that I didn't account for in this actually is that Huhi has actually been with the team for a year now, And he's been scrimming with them, right? It's not just he's only had a few months with them. He's actually been with this team for a long time. And that was reflected in the TPs that he was making. Afremu said there were a few missed ones. There were like 2 or 3. But otherwise, every single TP was really impactful for the game. And I thought they executed that strategy way better than I thought they would be able to on day 1. So that was something where I gave a higher mark to Huhi than I thought I would.
Want to jump into a couple replays. 22 minutes into the game, 3 for 0 for CLG around the Baron pit. Again, kind of showcasing that TSM lack of communication, slightly off kilter when it comes to deciding or pulling the trigger on a team fight.
Yep, and a lot of this was just CLG having better coordination beforehand. It's not like TSM played many of the in-fights particularly bad, but you could tell there was a lack of communication. This one displayed how much CLG trusts each other and how much they know the limits of Bard Kalista. When they first disengaged this fight as TSM, we didn't think CLG would be able to follow this, but they took the Lantern through, then Kalista ulted through, and Huhi, with his macro understanding, you could just very much tell that everyone on CLG was on exactly the same page. And that's how that initiation came together, because the distance traveled at first sight made you think that fight wasn't possible, but CLG pulled it off.
Yeah, and important to note that Svenskeren had died earlier in kind of a dance that had happened where Yellowstar also blew his ult. So TSM, with a lack of cooldowns and a man down, already at a disadvantage going into that fight.
And it was pretty much impossible to disengage, too, because when the Bard ultimate came down, Yellowstar went to the left and got split, and he's kind of their disengage sacrifice tool, so it ended up killing Bjergsen so they could get more off of it with the wave cleared down and the poke threat away as well.
All right, fast forward now, 40 minutes into the game, another 1 fight for CLG, 3 for 1, also results in our first 5th dragon of the season. We didn't think that was going to happen
Very first game.
Yeah, exactly. We didn't think that would happen so quickly. You know, this is, again, showcasing the same thing, but Zyrene, I'm going to let you walk us through this one.
Yeah, in this replay, what ends up happening is Svenskeren will repel as Yellowstar is starting to figure out if he wants to go in or not. Bjergsen gets duped out. And they can't decide, are they going in, are they not going in? And then when they decide, CLG has already made the decision, and you see Doublelift jumps away as Huhi comes in. So there's all of this going back and forth where the lack of focus is definitely on TSM's side, and CLG, they're willing to throw people in, they're willing to actually be on the same page, and you can tell immediately that this is a team that is like really coordinated. And Darshan cancels his TP, and then he waits there with a counter-strike just to get the jump on Doublelift. And then I love that magical journey. Afro's been on top of those in combat and out of combat.
And I like the prep for this fight from CLG's perspective. And I think it was another bit of a small misstep by TSM just in the overall strategic picture. When I saw that play forming, I thought it was going to be a 5-man TSM push to the open inhibitor, and they were going to trade a turret or an inhibitor and turret for an inhibitor and just kind of do the split, and they were okay with that. But instead, they ended up sending the Mundo back early, which created a 4v4 environment with no front line for CLG, which makes it very freeing for CLG to get the catch at the very beginning of that fight.
Yeah.
Clean game by CLG.
Yeah, exactly, clean game. Oh, go ahead.
I was just like, that's why you saw so many of those people just out there in front. They were acting like they had a Mundo in front of them, and you usually shouldn't be seeing that from the Elise. And of course, I understand that you want to have Yellowstar try to engage, but everybody needs to be on the same page there, and that's a problem. But you know, it's fixable. It's day 1. TSM still has a lot to look forward to with that roster.
Right, we're not condemning TSM to anything just yet.
It's over.
Clean but long game for CLG. We're only 1 game into the season, though, and there's a lot more action coming your way. Up next, it's Cloud9 versus the all-new Immortals. Don't go anywhere. The North American LCS. We'll be right back.
Can we just keep talking about TSM CLG?
Yeah, let's just continue to talk about that team.
Yeah.
It was a really good game.
Are we just gonna say that all the time? Oh, I'm so clean.
All the plays clean, dude.
Jesus Christ.
Dude, my shower was so clean today.
Oh my god.
You guys are stupid.
Gonna be a mistake here by Afremu. There's the journey. Oh, he gets himself out.
Lissandra stunned. Lissandra stunned. Kill Lissandra. Nice.
I can flash. I'm going into.
Tip.
Flashing. Trim, go down,
Tip.
Kill Trim. I stun him.
Watch it.
Nice. And Huhi very close to going down, and that's a 1-for-1 so far. Smithy trying to get away now from Hanser.
I got it. Go for it. I can
Yellowstar goes down. That's Huhi that gets taken down as well by Doublelift going hard on this one. Darshan tries to come back in, slaps him on the head, and Power Logic Gaming are going to take the game over TSM.